Thanks for tuning in to Know Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to talk about a uniquely Italian white wine grape varietal that grows in two areas of Italy. The first is Tuscany, where we call this grape Inzolia, and its greatest expression is achieved in the island of Sicily, where we call the grape Inzolia. So for the purpose of this video, we're going to call it Inzolia the rest of the way through. Now, Inzolia has a very unique relationship with the sea, and the greatest terroir for planting Inzolia grapes is on the very western part of Sicily, very close to the ocean, where some of the salt spray actually comes and coats the grapes as they grow, which protects them from vineyard pests. So it's really a unique relationship. Now, as Inzolia grows, it's a very vigorous vine, so it has to be pruned and managed so that we can get good airflow and that the grapes that are there achieve their maximum ripeness. Now, when those grapes are ripe, they produce large clusters of big golden grapes, and those grapes have very thick skins. However, there's one issue with Inzolia. As it reaches its peak ripeness, the sugar content is very high, which is exactly what we want to produce wine. Remember, if we have high sugar, we could either produce A, sweet wine with short fermentation, or B, a dry wine with longer fermentation. But without that sugar as fuel that the yeast acts upon, we can't produce alcohol. So high sugar content is great. However, the longer it gets ripe, the acid content goes down. So it very much is up to the grape grower to pick those grapes at the peak of ripeness, so sugar is high, but before the acid gets low. Historically speaking, when we look at the Inzolia grape, it's used for something I know all of you will be very familiar with, and that is a wine that's fortified called Marsala. So when we think of making chicken marsala, for example, we use a fortified Italian wine made from Inzolia, but also a little help from Grillo and Catarratto. Now, when a fortified wine is made, we do a light fermentation to leave a lot of residual sugar behind, and then we introduce a neutral grape spirit to kill the yeast, keep the initial fermentation and initial alcohol low, but adding the neutral grape spirit raises the alcohol. That's why it's called a fortified wine. Now, what we're talking about today, and for the purpose of this video, and we see a big wave in Sicily back to traditional, dry, unfortified versions of Inzolia. So, if you go to your wine store and you pick out an Inzolia, what exactly can you expect to find in your glass? So the first thing we do is we look at the wine, and we see that the wine itself is light straw color, just barely light gold. If we swirl to liberate the aromas, the first thing that comes out of the glass is somewhere between white flowers with a hint of menthol and an herbal component. Now that sounds quite unusual in the glass. Let's see how that translates across the palate. When this Inzolia passes the palate, we're greeted by beautiful fresh fruits. Think things like white peach. Think a little bit of apricot. And then we do get a slight kick from that menthol. It's got an interesting menthol stripe kind of mid-palate. Then we feel a background of herbs come in, but don't think baking spices. Think more savory herbs, things that you would use to, say, produce roasted chicken. Those are in there as well. And finally, we feel a little bit of heft from almost like an almondy finish. Now, this wine comes to us from a vintner by the name of the Chiaramonte family. And the Chiaramonte family is really a stalwart in Sicily, and they only produce wines from native Sicilian grapes. Well, just a little news for you. This wine was thought, or this grape was thought to originate in Greece, but brought to Italy in the 6th century. It's no longer cultivated in Greece, and it's now uniquely Italian. But the Chiaramonte family really produces and respects those ancient grapes of Sicily. Now you might be wondering, what exactly could we pair this with? I like it with two dishes that are kind of a little bit different. So the first one would be risotto with kind of a wild mushroom in it. And also, I like it with steamed clams, the way the brininess of the clams are, and the just slight bit of saline that's in this wine, plus the kind of herbal nature of it really complements it well. So I'm going to get back and enjoy a little bit more Inzolia, and I ask that you tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.